Good evening. Thank you for joining us for virtual town hall. Today is June 16th. Thank you for joining us. All right, we got a couple things for tonight. We have some general announcements. Then we're going to transition into a presentation, sort of a mid-year review, if you will, of administration, what our goals and priorities are for 2021, and what we're hoping to accomplish in the rest of the year. But before I get started, I want to address we don't have the pandemic. Obviously, we started this town halls because of the pandemic, and we committed to providing regularly and timely updates on anything related to the pandemic, numbers, vaccines, testing, whatever was urgent at the time. Since June 2nd, when the public health disorders restrictions were lifted, obviously, I was concerned about what the impact would be locally at the county level and the state level, and we were prepared to see a rise in numbers. I'm happy to see that the downward trending has remained. In fact, I know that Philip just recently released graphics about the county still being at level 2, and that was reduction from the level 3 emergency that we were at the end of May. So I think we're heading in the right direction. I think our community has done well, those that want to remain masked, those that are visiting downtown area, maintaining physical distancing. So I think we're in a good place. Keep up all the great things that you're doing. And I couldn't be happier with what we've accomplished as a community, and we've done the right things. I think there's still work to be done, and let's stay the course. All right, I have one important announcement. That's the pool announcement. I know our community is eager to get into the pool. We're still waiting on our pump to be fixed. It could be another week to 2 weeks. I have a call tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. at 9 a.m. to get a status update on a repair they're working on today with our pump. Hoping to get news, and I think after tomorrow I'll know more information on whether we'll be waiting 1 more week or 2 more weeks for the pump. And as soon as we have the pump back and it's in place and it's been tested to work properly, maintaining that flow rate that we're required to maintain, we will let you know, and we will open the pool as soon as possible. Mayor Pam has several announcements related to events, so I will not steal her thunder. I will let her cover those community events. I think our community is eager to see events happening here in Yellow Springs, and I'm happy that Mayor Pam has a great lineup of events to announce. Joining us tonight is Fire Chief Colin Altman, Police Chief Brian Carlson, and Mayor Pam. Chief Altman just joined, so Chief Altman, thank you for joining us tonight. Where are you joining us from?
Hold on, I'm having problems here.
Uh-oh.
I'm back.
All right.
Good evening, Josue, and the millions of people who are viewing this broadcast this evening. Miami Township Fire Chief Colin Altman coming to you live from the beaches of South Beach. No, I'm just coming to you from my apartment tonight. Darn it, doesn't work. Well, happy Pride, as you can tell from my background. Happy Pride to everyone who celebrates, from the L's to the G's to the B's to the T's to the Q's to the A's and the pluses. I'm not sure who they are, but I'm working on figuring it out. So happy Pride. Remember, June 26th is our Pride, and I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, so I won't say any more, but there'll be a parade and all that other fun stuff. So, yes, it'll be a good time. I had the honor of doing some first aid standby at Dayton's Pride earlier this month, and it was a huge event, much bigger than I think everyone planned, since it was kind of tossed together the last minute. So hopefully our Yellow Springs one will be just as successful, if not more. Take that, Dayton. So, 2 things I want to talk to you about tonight, but my agenda is slipped. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So 2 things. Number 1, I have spent the last, year plus on these Zoom calls, on these town halls, telling us all to trust the science. to wear your mask, to distance, to stay home, quit your belly aching and stay home, and then cautiously go out and get takeout and those kind of things. So I'm here again to tell you to trust the science. And that is, go out, have some fun, enjoy yourself. Just be smart. If you are vaccinated, and anecdotally, we think something like 70% of the 45387 metro area is, go out and have fun. I suggest going down to the Winds, have a drink, have some dinner. Don't have to wear your mask if you're vaccinated. Woo! Go in the area, go over to Target. Why not? Maybe you haven't been to Target in a long time and you missed the bullseye, the little dog, all those kind of fun things. I can suggest, if you're in Dayton, go to Tender Mercy, this amazing new adult beverage facility, which is underground, right next to the steam plant on 3rd Street. Fantastic. You'll think you're like in somewhere civilized, like New York City or something. So it's amazing. Check it out. But go out and have fun. I still see people like walking. They're the only person within 3 miles, and they still have their mask on. And that's your choice, obviously. But there's really no reason for that, particularly outside. We know now that some of our earlier fears about being in groups and all that kind of thing really didn't hold true. There wasn't a whole lot of transmission. So be careful, but go out. The world's opening up. We want to have fun. I know the variants out there. Everyone's like, God, no, not Delta. Just be careful. Only kiss people that you know you should be kissing. That's basically the message that Dr. Fauci and I want you all to hear. So go out and have fun. If you want to wait, start your fun on Yellow Springs Pride, YS Pride, sorry. That'll be a good time to do it, because Yellow Springs is having an actual parade. Columbus canceled theirs again. They're going virtual parade. Yeehaw. So Yellow Springs rocks once again. So thank you to the Yellow Springs Pride organizers. It's wonderful. There should be a fire truck in that parade as well. I will not be there, unfortunately, this year. I was there last year, but I'll have to miss it this year due to vacation. So just go ahead and have some fun. The other thing I just wanted to talk about quickly is, still, here we are. Let's see. I have been officially a gay guy for like, what am I now, 52? I don't know, 30, 40 years, something like that. It seems like, well, forever. I mean, I think probably forever, but officially. And I still hear crazy things about, the gay agenda. We're out to do all these things. So I actually looked it up to see what's on the gay agenda, and there's actually nothing that's really upsetting to people. There's things such as buy cute underwear. Who can argue with that? Golden Girls reruns for all. I mean, come on. Who doesn't like the Golden Girls? You can be straight, gay, bi, the whole 9 yards. Who doesn't love the Golden Girls? And what was my favorite one? My eyes aren't as good as they were. Jesus, Joseph and Mary. Stand by, people. Oh, and better eyebrows. I think we can all agree that some people need better eyebrows. So really, there's nothing on there to be afraid of. So this month and every month, go out and give a big hug to your LGBTQIA plus people and all the allies out there, and just anybody. Hug them. But be careful. Make sure you know who they are before you give them a hug so you don't get any kind of weird variants. So go out, have fun, celebrate, wave your rainbow flags on high, and have a good time. And with that, I'll turn it right back to you, Mr. Manager.
All right. Chief, thank you so much for those kind words. I think you left off funky, colorful socks, and that's what I've gotten hooked on. Cool.
All right.
But I'll take your advice, and certainly not in the workplace hugging people for me. Chief Carlson, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Josue. Good evening, everyone. A couple of notes that I'd like to mention, just because I caught myself doing this weekend. Please remind your friends and loved ones that we have new crosswalk buttons on Xenia Avenue at Short Street. Very important to use those. I found myself guilty of forgetting to do that on Sunday as well. Downtown is very busy, as we all know. Please watch out for all of our bicyclists in town, and most importantly, your big goofy police chief on his new blue bike. which I'm sure you'll see more of me riding around. Last, I'd like to remind everyone in the summer especially, please keep your porch lights on and try to trim the hedges around your address numbers. Squad and the police department and sheriff's department have been very busy this summer, so we've had a lot of mutual aid calls. They're not familiar with the village as we are, and as many of you know, we do have addresses that that are a little bit out of sync in certain places. So check those when you can. I will be checking all of our stop signs around the village. I've had a couple complaints about some growth around those. I won't do any major damage to anyone's plants or anything, but I will clear around the stop signs as needed, and I'll be working on that this weekend. And last, I'd like to do a great shout out and congratulations to our village manager, Josue Salmaran. Tomorrow will be his second year anniversary. Hard to believe. Josue, we're glad that you're here, and we look forward to many, many more years with you at the helm. Thank you very much. Back to you, boss.
Thank you so much, Chief. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yes, tomorrow will be my second year anniversary, and most of that time's been under a pandemic. So it's been a very quite the experience. I'm really proud of the team that we've put together, the team that we have, and all the great that we accomplished. I couldn't ask for better team, better community to serve. So thank you to my team, and thank you to the residents who push me to be better every day. So thank you. All right, Mayor Pam, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Josue. I too want to second your anniversary, your 2-year anniversary tomorrow, and the well wishes. You did a masterful job, my friend, of leading us through the pandemic, staying in tune and in touch with what was going on at the federal, state level, and bringing it home to us. And between you and Colin, I'm telling you, and Chief and everyone else on the village team, it was just a job well done. So congratulations. We'll be thinking of you tomorrow on your anniversary. Well, you know, folks, we're beginning to dip our collective toes back into the pre-COVID time existence. And most of us are doing it slowly. I know I am. I'm trying to pick and choose from the many village events which ones I will attend to get back into the swing of things. Most health practitioners, of course, as Colin alluded, are telling us to take it slowly. And I think that's very wise advice. So that said, let's check out some of the village activities that are going on coming up in the next 2-3 weeks. I hope to see you all at this Saturday's Juneteenth celebration at Gahn Park. I'm going to do some screen sharing here. Our Juneteenth celebration, Gahn Park, will be going from 11 o'clock until 3 o'clock. Coinciding it with the end of that is an event at Beatty Hughes down there behind Keith's Alley, or AKA on Corey Street, the Beatty Hughes Park from 2 to 4. There will be a mural competition explanation. Pierre Negley will be there. He did a beautiful job of mural that honored Virginia Hamilton, organized by Human, Help Us Make a Nation. Pierre's going to be there talking about murals that he has done. Carmen Lee is going to be there talking as well on the history of Juneteenth and other things. So this event is going to include live music, community barbecue, an artist reception, and everyone is welcome. Speaking of everyone is welcome, the following Saturday, again, little screen sharing here. Following Saturday is Yellow Springs YS Pride Day. So come out and join the fun. No pun intended, pun definitely intended, I guess, throughout the day and into the evening. Check out yspride.com for events that will be happening starting with, I believe, the parade. The parade queues up at noon out at Antioch University Midwest, and we'll go through the town bigger and better than ever. It's a car parade. So if you come at noon and get your number in line and so forth. You can be part of the car parade if you would like. Decorate your vehicle, decorate yourself, decorate Chief Altman, and come on out and join the fun. So the car parade will set off at 1 o'clock, queue up at noon, set off at 1, and go throughout the village. It's bigger and better and longer than ever, and it will be fun, fun, fun. So check out the schedule, yspride.com. Then give you a few days to relax, and then we shift to Sunday, July 4th, where again, we're going to have another parade. There will be parade and fireworks this year, so I've been told by the Odd Fellows. So the parade on the 4th of July will be at 3 p.m. through downtown as usual. And then the fireworks will be in the evening when it gets dark at Gone Park. So come on out, one and all, and join the fun safely this year, of course. We can, do as you need to feel protected for you and your family. Between these weekend events, don't forget to get out and do your exercise. Walk, run, bike, try to see Chief Carlson. He's got that new, big, beautiful blue bike. You see him out there riding, and that's wonderful. He's a great role model for us. So imagine my surprise when I looked at the front page of the Dayton Daily today. Above the fold, the headline was, "Want to buy a new bike? Be patient." So after reading that article, I immediately called up my friend Michael at the Yellow Springs Village Cyclery, and I said, "Michael, what's going on? What's up with that, and how's it affecting us locally?" And Mike started off saying, getting new bikes right now is impossible. He said, you're looking at late 2022 or even 2023 before you can comfortably and quickly order a new bike, unless you get very lucky or know some sources through Slipping Colin Altman, maybe a Benjamin Franklin, and seeing what he can come up with for you. Getting the inventory is very difficult. There's tons of back-ordered bikes, and it has to do with a combination, of course, of supply chain management and metal shortages and shipping container shortages and many other things. So it's best to call around if you need a bike, see if you can find one. Mostly they're on back order. Maybe you can be lucky enough to get one. And if you do, Mike says, make sure you get one. If you have to put down a deposit, put down one that's guaranteed refundable, so that if it's the wrong size or something doesn't fit or doesn't work, you can get your money back. But he also said, beware, there's a lot of price gouging going on right now. So get out that Schwinn from 20 years ago, get her oiled up, a little Tri-Flow or something, and hit the trails, hit the streets, and enjoy our beautiful bike trails here in Yellow Springs and the area environments. Okay, I believe that's it for me for tonight. Let's carry on with Josue again. It's back to you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pam. And this concludes our regular town hall related to the pandemic updates and highlights of what we have going on in the community. So, Philip, we'll open the floor for any questions that may have come through. Do you see any questions? Okay. If you're watching, type in that question on your YouTube or Facebook, wherever it is that you're watching us from. Now, give it a few seconds. Today I was on the news today, Channel 7, being interviewed on a state amendment to a budget state amendment for year 2022. The Senate last week passed a budget amendment that would essentially ban community broadband networks. That includes the network that we have built in the downtown area, the public Wi-Fi, the future projects that we have in the work, which is to get internet service to children that are underserved in our community. It would ban public partnership projects in Xenia and other parts of the county, and also our information technology centers. We have an information technology center in Yellow Springs that's in Becca, run by Thor Sage, who's doing a great job. This budget amendment would essentially do away with all community broadband networks. Anything that involves a public-private partnership or owned by the public will be banned. I think this will be devastating for everyone in the state, residents, children, seniors, you name it. Internet is an essential service, and we need to ensure, not guarantee it for every citizen, not just in the state, but in the country. So I think this is really bad policy at the state level to ban community broadband networks. So I've been out public about this. I reached out to lawmakers, House representatives, state senators, to share my opposition, that this is bad for us here in Yellow Springs, is bad for residents in Ohio. So that's out in the news today, and I make that announcement now here that I think this is something important that we need to act on. So reach out to your representatives. And Philip, maybe we can put out some information on this, maybe link it to a news article, because I think this is important. Do I think it's going to ultimately pass? I don't think so. I think it ultimately is going to fail. But the thought that the Senate would pass legislation to ban community broadband networks, I think that's just a terrible idea. The legal counsel, the advocacy groups we've been in conversations with, they think that this is unconstitutional because it challenged the home rule powers granted to municipalities. So we think it'll fail, but just the fact that the Senate would pass such an amendment to end all community broadband is disturbing. So hopefully Governor DeWine, if it makes it to his desk, he would do a budget line veto on this. He has the authority to do so. So I hope if it does make it through this conference over the next 2 weeks, where House and Senate have to negotiate a final budget for 2022 to present to the governor, hope that the governor will do the right thing and veto this. I see there's a question that came through. Who are our representatives? Our House representative is Brian Lampton, and our Senate representative is Bob Hackett. Philip, probably a good idea to post their information. I don't have cell phone numbers for Hackett and Lampton, otherwise I would provide those as well. So that's on community broadband. I think it's going to be big news over the next 2 weeks because it would have devastating effect across the state on every sector. Education, this means schools cannot do what they do now, which is to band together to negotiate internet services and data center technology through the information technology centers. It would ban all community-owned network. I think the free Wi-Fi falls under that ban because it is a community broadband network. All right, so that's that story. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to share, and the purpose of this presentation is to highlight what are the 2021 priorities for the administration, what are we working on, and what we're hoping to accomplish. I will also provide an update on where some of these projects are. I have good news on many of the things that are on our priority list. And the reason for me to do this is I think that the community at times doesn't know what we're working on. Just last week, we finished the path along South College. We did half of that. That's something that we've been working on for some time, and we have a plan to finish the second half next year. And there'll be a challenge there that we need to address. There are trees in the way. We will need to address that over the next 12 months in order to complete that project. But that's an example of something we have that we work on, and times our community doesn't know what we're up to. And I want to reassure you that we have a dedicated team here in the administration. We're working hard to deliver value for our community. We're tackling things now that had been planned in 2012. 2012, there were these big plans about dealing with infiltration and inflow in our sewer systems, and come 2019, nothing had happened. So we're taking care of major infrastructure challenges and also planning for the future, such as the community broadband networks. Those are future oriented, and they are strategic projects that we need to embark on to ensure a better future for all of our residents and businesses. All right, so let me get started with this presentation. Okay. Sean, I'm experiencing a technical issue here with screen sharing. Okay. I did the screen sharing, it says not sharing, and then PowerPoint crashed. So I don't know if you see it on your end. Okay. Bear with me, just a couple more seconds. I had to restart this Outlook program and still not restarting. Okay. All right, my Outlook has crashed, so my PowerPoint isn't coming up. So I'll speak on what are the top priority projects, and eventually my screen will come back on, and I'll do a screen share and share my list of projects. So community broadband, it's been a project that our community has tried getting off the ground for my understanding, it's been 6-7 years. Timothy Barnhorst, Scott Fife, Thor, Amy Magnus, Ellis Jacobs. They're wonderful community leaders that have been working on this initiative for a very long time, and they've hit a lot of barriers. Some of it was, pardon the pun, lack of bandwidth in the administration. Just a lot of things going on, and it was a project that we just couldn't get off the ground. Now, one of the things that helped us prioritize this project was the fact that we dealt with a pandemic. And suddenly we had a ton of folks working from home, school children who couldn't access schools because of lack of high quality internet. So that prioritized the need for good internet access here in our community. So we were able to build out the various, the network, a wireless mesh network that Thor engineered. And it's a access points, wireless routers set up in key locations in the downtown area. Also, the libraries and the school buildings are part of that, and the John Bryan Center. So through this initiative, we were able to provide some basic Wi-Fi network, free internet. Now, I'd say it's more than basic because I was out there today with the Channel 7 News Candace reporter, and I did a speed test on my phone right in front of the Emporium, and I was able to get 150 megabits per second download speeds. It's amazing speed. That's more than what I get at home through my Spectrum service. So the fact that we could do this in all of the downtown area and provide such fast internet speaks volumes to our local community resources, the expertise, and the commitment that all of our partners have. Now, that broadband network would not be possible without the partnerships, the strong partners that we have in our community. The MVECA, Community Foundation, the schools, Yellow Spring schools were instrumental to this because we were able to get some grant money through the school system that became available. And also support from community members. I mentioned the Thor and Tim and Scott who helped, who were part of the team on building this out. They're instrumental. We also had an anonymous donor. They donated money to this initiative to close the gap. They don't want to be named. I guess they don't want the fame and recognition, but we couldn't make this happen without the generous support from donors as well. And council, having a council that is very forward-looking, solution-oriented, and very supportive about over broadband. So that's a major accomplishment. Last week, we received exciting news about additional funding that's become available to us. So the team is working on a phase 3 pilot project, which is the expansion of our downtown fiber and getting fiber into homes and businesses. With the funding that we received from Broadband Ohio, we'll be able to expand the pilot area. And I know that previously we had scheduled a broadband conversation for June 30th, and we'll be rolling out the pilot project on June 30th. So be on the lookout for that invitation. It's going to happen here on the same channel at 7 p.m. And we'll present on the next phase of the community broadband project. So we're really excited to do that work. The other projects that we have, they're essential sanitary system upgrades. There are a few things we've been working on sanitary system. One is infiltration and inflow. Last year, we prioritized reducing that infiltration and inflow because if you recall, in 2019, we received a letter from the Ohio EPA indicating that we were close to exceeding our daily flows for our system. And if we exceeded our daily flows, we would be prohibited from having any development, meaning homes or any users in the system. And I don't think that's something that we can afford. So we devoted a lot of our attention and energy to solving the sanitary flows issue. And a lot of it was very basic to solve. Part of me is a bit embarrassed to say how simple the solution was. But previous administrations couldn't get it done. We got it done. Some of that solution were we have reports that indicated replacing the maintenance hole lids. The maintenance hole lids. As you know, we have these maintenance holes and the lids. Some are very porous. The current ones that we have now are not. And part of that work to reduce the infiltration inflow was as simple as changing the maintenance lids. To make them less porous so you have less storm water entering the system. Other elements of the work included raising the maintenance holes to be above ground so that all the water wouldn't just come into the sanitary system and collect. And other work was relining of the sanitary sewer system. So we did a lot of relining last year. We have more planned for this year. We actually just completed the video inspection of the next section of town that we plan on relining those sewers. I think not next council meeting, but in the July meeting, we will present on what is the next section of town that we will be relining. So this is going to help reduce the infiltration and inflow in our sanitary system, which ultimately will mean a better efficient system, a system that can handle more capacity, and we will no longer have the threat of the Ohio EPA potentially citing us for not having a properly functioning system. Other important elements of this work is that we will reduce the overflows that happen at our plant. That's something that we want to avoid. Fortunately, we have a plant that's designed to handle several million gallons of water overflow during high rain events. But that in significant storms or 100-year storms, certainly it's not going to be enough to hold all the rainwater that comes into our system. So these improvements that we're making are important. The other infrastructure project that we are prioritizing for this year is our water loss. At the end of last year and the beginning of this year, I announced the numbers of our water loss figures. That water loss is, the way that we calculate our water loss is how much water do we produce. We have a meter at the water plant that measures how much water we put out from that plant and how much water we send out to the towers and the community. So we know what that amount of water is, and then we tally the amount of water that we sell. That's everything that goes to a residential meter, a water meter, and it's billed and sold to the customer. So the difference between those two numbers, water we produce, water we sent out from the plant, and water we documented selling to a customer, the difference between those two numbers is our water loss. That's water that we can't trace. We don't have a meter for it. We can't trace. We're not sure where it goes. That water is over 40%, that ratio. So we're losing over 40% of our water. And we don't know where it's going. Some of it is going towards legitimate purposes. An example of that is the fire department. The fire department gets free water for its firefighting activities. The new station for its regular use, such as the township, if Don and Chris are having events or doing things in the administrative office, that water gets billed to them. But the fire service gets free water. There are other. We lose water when we have a main break. Right? We had a main break on Xenia Avenue. It's a lot of water. We have main breaks throughout the town. That's an issue with such a aging infrastructure or age infrastructure. So there's water losses there that we're not able to measure, but we know that we're having some of those losses. But 40% is too high to just not know where that water is going. So we're working on finding. We've embarked on a new leak detection program throughout the village. We actually piloted a technology a few weeks ago using sonar technology. So it sends us, the sonar technology sends a signal right down to our pipe, and it's able to measure water movement in the pipe. And the solar technology can tell us if we have a water leak and that pipe or along that section being scanned. So we're testing that technology out, and we will be breaking ground or digging up some of these pipes where the technology indicates we have a leak, and the piloting of the technology is for us to measure its cost effectiveness. Are we able to detect a leak in a certain pipe, and if we dig into the ground, is there a leak there? And what does it cost us to do that detection and repair? So we'll be piloting that technology over the next couple months, and we'll be doing some repairs based on results that we get. And with that, we hope to be able to address some of our water leaks. In other places, we've put in water meters in properties that didn't have water meters. I don't want to speculate here on how those arrangements came to be, but they have existed in the village for some time, and we're looking to address that at minimum to understand how much water is going to customers or folks with a connection to our water system. So that's on water losses. So stay tuned, we'll have more to report on that. Our energy portfolio. I think you've heard me talk about new solar projects in our community, new solar contracts with our partners at American Municipal Power. In fact, we had a presentation, I believe, 2 council meetings ago, where we had our representative from American Municipal Power, Mike, provide an update on power supply. And I believe one of the Stuart Young or one of the Young family members wrote a letter to the editor. That reminds me, I'll address the point and some of that critique in that letter. But anyway, we have 2 energy contracts that are expiring in our energy portfolio. We have a EDI landfill contract that's expiring, and the Blue Creek wind contract that's expiring. One expires in 2021, the other at the beginning of 2022. So we have 2 energy contracts that we need to replace. We've been working on a multi-pronged approach to providing, to replace those contracts. And the presentation that Mike from AMP gave to council a few weeks ago involved replacing those energy contracts with 2 different projects. One is a hydro project out of Virginia, and we'll replace one of the contracts. The price point, the kilowatt price point for these 2 projects are very good. I think so good that it may make it challenging for me to present an alternative project for local solar generation in Yellow Springs. But check out that presentation. There are 2 contract options we have through AMP. One's the hydro project, and another is a solar project. AMP is negotiating on behalf of the municipalities, the partners that are part of the association, a utility grade solar project. Now, this is not the Kingwood Solar that you've been hearing about down the street. This is a different project. But right now, the perspective on that project look very promising. It could be as low as 2 cents a kilowatt hour plus transmission cost. And then there's the negotiations of the solar renewable energy credit. So the price will be affected if we want the solar renewable energy credit, or do we want to just have the project sell it? If the project will sell the credits on our behalf, then that would reduce the rate to us. So there are two good proposals from AMP. The other approach that we've been working on is having the solar pavilion at the John Bryan Center. I think it would be a great feature to have here at the John Bryan Center, because we have the farmers market on Saturdays here at the John Bryan Center. By us building out that solar pavilion would help create the shelter and be able to add event space, things that could be used for the farmers market or any other type of activity that would benefit from covered shelter and electricity. Now, that solar pavilion is not cheap. We've been working on a model where could we design a solar pavilion that will offset the energy consumption of the John Bryan Center, which we estimate about 270 kilowatt system. Want a system that would offset the energy use of the John Bryan Center, and we would use that energy offset as the form of payment to pay off the solar pavilion. Now, we ran the numbers. So if this solar pavilion is able to save us our entire electricity bill for the John Bryan Center, there still is a gap. By the model that Johnny and I ran for a 20-year finance project, we're looking at about a $5,000 gap difference. And so on that project, I would have to justify to council paying an additional $5,000 to have a solar pavilion for the next 20 years. Is it worth it? I think we have a good case to be made that spending an additional $5,000 to have a multi-use space out of the parking lot here at the John Bryan would be a good use of taxpayer money or public assets. But we got more work to do on that project. In addition to the solar pavilion, we're looking at a 2 megawatt solar system. Right now, the most feasible space to put a 2 megawatt solar system is Sutton Farm. Sutton Farm, if you're not familiar with our farm, is off 343 right next to our Public Works garage. I encourage you to drop by because we've also built our new garage, which will house our municipal equipment, so our utilities equipment, our trucks, vehicles. So that's an important piece of infrastructure improvement that we've done, because we can't afford to leave the Bobcats and all the equipment that we use. We can't afford to leave it outside because it's exposed to the weather, to the elements, and it deteriorates over time much faster than storing it in the garage. So I think it's a good practice to have as much equipment as we can in storage to prevent deterioration of our equipment. So currently you drive by down Sutton Farm and you'll see that there's this big field next to our municipal garage there. There's a nice big field that we could put a 2 megawatt system. We have been working with a partner that we already work with to get some price estimates on what kind of arrangement, what kind of price point we will have. Good conversations. Unfortunately, the price point isn't very attractive compared to what AMP is providing. So we've extended the conversation. We reached out to our partner at our other municipal solar project, which is right off Fairfield Pike. So we've been in conversation with them about what expansion opportunities would be available to us on that solar project. Expansion opportunities will look like adding additional solar or adding battery technology. So we'll continue those conversations with our partners and see how they go. But ultimately, we intend on going the route of requesting proposals. So we'll release a request for proposals, and we'll put out very detailed numbers about what kind of systems we want. First and foremost, what kind of capacity do we want? So we want a solar pavilion that can deliver 270 kWs in generation, and then a utility grade or a 2 megawatt solar farm to replace those expiring energy contracts. Once we have those numbers, we'll schedule a presentation with council to be able to provide the various options that we have. Very good options with AMP, our partners at AMP, and then the options that we can build ourselves. I've heard from many community members that they would want to see solar generation in our community, in and around community. So a 2 megawatt solar system makes sense because it's something that they can see. It has tangible benefit within the community. It would also has economic benefit in our community because having solar generation here in town will help reduce transmission costs of delivering electricity from far away into the community. It also helps during peak shaving times. Peak shaving is when everyone's using electricity and we pay an additional expense if we are unable to control our peak demand. So having local solar generation can help reduce our peak demand charges. So there's a lot of benefit from this. I don't know what's going on with my computer, and I'm afraid to do anything because it can. Sorry, folks. I've been watching my computer here so I can get this PowerPoint up and running, but it just simply won't go. It's frozen on Zoom, so I'm afraid to do anything because I don't want to cancel the Zoom video feed. All right, let's see what else I have. So I covered solar, I covered water, sewer, safe routes to school, and active transportation. The Safe Routes to School project is the installation of sidewalks from along Limestone from Dayton Street over by Bill Duncan all down to South Walnut Street. This has been a project in the works that we applied for grant funding and we were able to secure that. This is before my time, but during my time, it's when we would execute it. So we're executing on this project now. We've started to do the utility pole realigning. There's poles that we got to get out of the public right away on that east side of the street where we will be installing the sidewalks. Now, all this work, it's happening on public property. This is land that the public owns. We're not taking private property and putting in sidewalks. These sidewalks are going on public property. That work, the power pole relocations has started. On the side closest to South Walnut Street, there's a section right next to the school, Mills Lawn School. This is something we're working with the schools. The initial design of the sidewalk would have the sidewalk running right next to the road. There's a safety issue of having the sidewalk so close to the road, and there's a grading issue. So we would have to move the sidewalk a bit further into the school. We're in conversation with the schools. They've been very supportive about shifting that sidewalk, and I think we'll have news to announce in the coming weeks as we work through those easements. But overall, this project, while it's called the Safe Routes to School, and the primary goal is to ensure a safer path for kids to get to school, we all know that we all benefit from sidewalks. This is something that is much needed in our community. I see folks walking on the streets and on times putting themselves at risk, but that's because many of our streets just don't have an alternative. There's no sidewalks in many of our streets, and with this project will help improve the safety of pedestrians in the village. The active transportation project is a project to redo the shared path along Dayton Street from Enon Road down to South Walnut Street, right before Walnut Street. So we'll redo that path. It also includes some crosswalks and rapid flashing beacons, similar to the one that we have in front of the little art theater. So the active transportation project grant funding we received for that will cover some of that work. Now, we're a few years from the active transportation project, but there's a lot of planning work that we need to do now. We've done the surveying of the shared path along Dayton Street. We've identified which right-of-way easements need to be granted, and there may be some private property easements that we're considering, but most certainly getting some buy-in and informing the residents that would be affected by this. Some of this shared path requires a widening to meet ADA compliance and new construction standards. So in some areas, we need to expand it. So we're working through that project. So if you see some of our team out there surveying, that's what we're doing for that path. All right. I think what I'm able to work out here, storm systems. I'm happy to announce that we were successful in our recent stormwater grant application. We had applied to the Ohio Public Works Commission for funding to reroute the storm system along Dayton Street. This system affects all the businesses on Dayton Street between Corey Street and Walnut Street. There's many of those businesses that are at the edge of the storm system, or part of their building is on top of the storm system, and there's water intrusion happening on those businesses. Last year, we had a pipe collapse at the rear of the laundromat. We had to dig up some gravel and seal put a lid on the drain. So there's been an issue on this section of town. There's been an issue since I understand from the 1960s. We finally have some money to do reroute of that storm system. So this grant that we received would allow us to do a reroute of that storm system and help make the railroad lot a buildable lot. So as we're thinking about the future and the need to reroute this storm system, we're looking at the railroad lot as a development opportunity. So what that means for the short term, we're not putting a building anytime soon, but what it means now is that we have to think about what could go on that property. So as we reroute the storm system and our moving utilities, we want to be the most efficient with the limited dollars that we have, and that is that we want to reroute all the utilities in there and with an eye on the future. So we'll reroute the utilities and leave what utilities we need to leave at railroad lot, thinking about what could go on that property in the future. Now, obviously, we need to do some visioning, and we need to have some concepts about what business opportunities or what development opportunities could take place at railroad. So what I'm thinking is a building that would be facing towards Dayton Street, possibly a 3-story building with retail space, professional offices, and residential on a 3rd floor. So maybe a 3-story building. So if we can think of that concept, what do we need to do from a utilities perspective to ensure that we only dig once and we leave some infrastructure in place, so that if in the future we want to develop that parcel, we have some infrastructure in place there. So we'll reduce the cost long term of what could be built on there. Right now, as it is, if we want to build anything on that lot, it can't happen. There's a storm system underneath it. So the land is not suitable for building anything on it. There's a power line that runs directly above it and back to the alleys of the businesses that are on Dayton Street. So right now, if we wanted to, it would be a very expensive ordeal to make that lot developable. So we want to think about the future. We're going to dig up the land the dirt on that lot now. So we want to make sure we dig it only once. Let's put in the infrastructure that we need for the future. So that's what we'll do with that parcel. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done. The engineering work is still yet to be done on that storm rerouting, but it's going to be taking place over the next couple months. So part of that re-engineering of that storm system will require some conceptual designs of what could go on railroad lots. The other piece to this storm reroute system is that, yes, we will have some work along Dayton Street, and that storm reroute system will require a breaking of the streets to get the storm system in there. Currently, our storm drains on that property, the closest one that we have in that section of town is at the intersection of Dayton Street and Walnut Street. And that's where we will need to tie in the storm system that runs behind the laundromat and behind all those businesses downtown. So we'll need to do away with that sewer line behind those businesses and come down Dayton Street. I will coordinate with Johnny over the next couple of weeks and not months that as we have more detailed drawings about this engineering, we'll have a presentation on it so that the public and the businesses are informed about what we're planning to do in that part of town. All right, so what I can tell from my notes here, all right, I mentioned the sanitary system. We just finished the video inspections of the next section of town. So we're expecting that video, the photos and videos of that camera and video inspections to become available to us in the next 2 weeks. So Johnny and I are going to get together next couple of weeks, evaluate the footage that we received and the recommendations we'll get from Insights Pipe, who did the video inspection for us, and we'll map out the pipes and what conditions there are in, and we'll make decisions about what sections of the pipe will be relining. So that's also happening in the next couple months. We have a project to do file digitization and cataloging of council records. We received a grant from the Ohio, Philip, I may need your help on this, Ohio Records Archive Society. So we received a small grant that allow us to buy a commercial scanner. So Raven's been hard at work digitizing council ordinances and meeting minutes. I had the pleasure of reading some of the ordinances from 1988. Very interesting stuff was happening then. So good news there is that we want to digitize as much information as we can. We have very good records here in the office. They take up a lot of space. But more importantly, what we're trying to solve is make them accessible to us, to our citizens. And so we'll digitize them. They'll be available on our website and by the end of the year. So we have a project goal or delivery date for this, and that is December. So these files will be digitized and available for the public. There's really neat things in there. One of the things I learned was that long time ago, the village had planned to put the wastewater treatment facility right in the middle of the Glen. And council was on board at the time, and it makes sense because we didn't have electric motors then to run a pump station. The system will be gravity fed, but I think you can imagine the problem of having a sanitary system going right in the middle of the Glen. You know, I think fortunately for us in our community that we had a strong partnership with Antioch College, and there were some land negotiations and land donations, which ultimately allowed for our sanitary plant to be built where it is now and a pump station built right in the Glen. So wastewater comes right down to right past here, the John Bryan Center to our pump station. And then there's a motor there that pumps all that wastewater to our wastewater treatment facility. So pretty cool stuff in those old minutes and ordinances. Now that reminds me, the file digitization project. That project and that material is only good as the accessibility to those files are. So we are talking about a web refresh, a web design, a new web design, moving over to a new platform. I've heard a lot of complaints about how unfriendly your website is and how difficult it is to find information on there. So we've taken that feedback and we will be delivering a new website by the end of the year. So I think that I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the feedback from our residents about what things they want to see in our website, what kind of accessibility. So that's something that we have in the works as well. At the last council meeting, you might have heard me make a reference to our personnel manual. Our current personnel manual was created in 2014. So it's been 7 years since our last update. And there are things in there that, one, we're out of compliance. We need to update our manual to be in compliance with labor laws. So we need to make some upgrades there. Sorry, I think there's a little pop-up window there. All right, thank you, Sean. So we need to upgrade our personnel manual to be in compliance with laws. And then there are things in there that folks in 2014 didn't consider. There were remote work issues. As you know, right now we have due to the pandemic, we had some folks that due to being priority groups or vulnerable groups, we made some flexibilities to work from home, those that could work from home. And there are a few other issues, labor issues that we just need to address through our manual. The other piece is we have very robust benefits. I couldn't be happier with what benefits that we have, but there's some of these benefits that have cost us money over the cost us money last year and the year before that, so the last 2 years. Expenses that were unbudgeted for, and that many other municipalities just simply don't offer. So what I mentioned to council was that I wanted to find a way to have better control over sick leave payouts. Right now, the way that our sick leave policy is that as folks move to another job, they can have their sick leave paid out. There's a cash payout. Up to 25% of their sick leave hours will get paid out. Actually, that's the policy, is 25% of their hours are paid out. We've had issues where someone came to work from us after working a lifetime at another municipality, and they brought in a lot of hours, over 1,000 hours. And within a year, they decided to leave, and it cost us some money that wasn't budgeted. And so I want to ensure that we're financially sound as an organization, and some of these things need to be budgeted for and money set aside for, because we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared if something like this happens. I think there are two ways of addressing this. One is through a policy change where our payouts are much more predictable, and limiting what hours come in or allowed to come in, and what limiting or limiting the payouts. So this is there's some issues raised by the team on this, and certainly I don't want to take benefits away, but I have a fiduciary responsibility to our taxpayers, our residents, and the organization. So I'm working through some of these issues in the personnel manual. I'll have conversations with the employees, not just about this, but other pieces in our personnel manual, and hopefully we'll come up with really good policies. Not only will we update our manual to meet labor standards or labor regulations now, but they're also work towards advancing our mission and vision as an organization. So I want to be an employer of choice. I want the village to be very competitive, and not just our wages and benefits, but also how we treat our teams and how we treat our employees, and how innovative we are as an organization. So that's something that's going to require a lot of work on our end. So, and that's the personnel manual. While it's the manual that the manager, the village manager, uses to administer employees, it's a document that's adopted by ordinance by council, and it's approved by council. So that's why that's a particularly important piece, because it's something that will come to council and there will be public hearings on. Okay. All right, I think I'm going to cover two more that I'm able to see here and given the time. One is the Parks and Recreation's master plan. Our current Parks and Recreation master plan is from 1998. I think we can agree that it's a bit dated. Now, the good thing is that we've been able to accomplish a lot of the things that we've identified as important Parks and Recreation elements. For example, Ellis Pond. We've installed 3 bridges, 2 bridges to around the pond, and then there's the bridge to the Arboretum. So those are things that we needed to do, especially the bridge across the spillway. We've had injuries there, and that's a liability and should have been taken care of a long time ago. But anyway, we got it done. So we've gotten a lot of parks improvement initiatives done. The next one on my radar is the Betty Hughes Park. We presented a preliminary concept that Nadia Malarkey put together for us. We think it's a great way to improve Betty Hughes Park, so that's also on our radar. But we also need to address our Parks and Recreation's assets through a methodology. We need to come up with a plan and think long-term, what do we need to do for our parks, not just 1 year out or 5 years out, but probably 10-year plan, like we plan for a lot of other things. The comprehensive land use plan is an example. The active transportation plan is another example. So we need an updated Parks and Recreation plan. So we're planning to get that done by the end of the year. This plan not only is going to map out all of our assets, but do an inventory of the assets, the conditions of the assets, and what are things that we want to work on towards in the future for. So I hope you'll get excited about that. I think our community loves our parks. So that's something that we want to make sure that we're planning for and budgeting for. The other piece, I'll touch on the budget. At the next council meeting, we'll be presenting our tax budget. This year, we're not required to because the state law change, and given the impact that COVID had on our income projections, by law, we're not required to put together a tax budget at this point in the year. But we're doing it anyway. It's part of our schedule and it's part of our internal practices. So Matt Dillon and I, our finance director, we're working on a tax budget to present to council on Monday. This tax budget only looks at revenue. So we're projecting property taxes, income taxes, fuel tax, and a few other income streams that we have. So we're presenting that income tax, the estimated resource tax budget to council on Monday. And that is the first step towards budget planning for 2022. The bulk of the budget planning happens in September through December, and by December is when council approves the budget. But what makes this year particular in our budget process is that you've heard me say that we're dipping into reserves. We're using reserves to make investments in infrastructure and other key projects. Well, we're getting to the tail end of how much reserves we can use. And we need to be strategic as much as we can about the limited resources that we have. So in 2021 budget process, in preparation for 2022, we're doing a complete review of our entire budget. We had a comprehensive review last year with Matt and with council, and we're digging deeper this time around. And part of that review is we're making a determination of all the operational expenses. What are all operational obligations we have? What are things that we must do, and separate those from what is the ongoing liability and requirements, And that becomes the base budget, and we will work towards having a structurally balanced budget, meaning we have the revenues line up with all of our essential services. And then we'll look at, okay, what's left out of that, the difference there, the income streams that we have, and we've covered all of our essential services and our essential obligations. What is left to do improvements, capital investments, or new projects? So Matt and I and the team will work on the budget to make that a bit clearer for council and for residents and for ourselves, because the budget is a planning tool. It's how we allocate the financial resources to meet our very ambitious agenda. So there'll be a lot of conversation around structured budget. Some of that conversation involves looking at the reciprocal tax. Henry Myers has a letter in this week's newspaper. I know some of you probably haven't seen it and probably don't know it's out yet, but I get the newspaper on Wednesday, the digital version, and I read through it, oftentimes because I get a random call from either a supervisor or a constituent asking me about a letter to the editor, and I don't like to be caught by surprise or off guard. So I read them. So I read your letters. So Henry Myers has a letter in this week's newspaper talking about the income tax, talking about how some members in our community benefit from services that they don't pay income tax. Because our local income tax for the village government, we have an income tax on people that work here. So if you work in a municipality that doesn't have any municipal tax, you're not paying any income tax. You're not paying it here. What you pay here would be the school tax, the school income tax, but that doesn't come to the village government. There are examples where someone, well, the other thing about the reciprocal tax is that we provide 100% reciprocal tax credit up to 1.5% towards any other municipality that they're paying taxes on. So meaning they don't have to pay taxes for us up to 1.5% if they're paying it somewhere else. So there's the reciprocal tax issue has come up in previous council meetings. It's something that council was very interested in discussing. We had at least one discussion on it, and I think that may be an issue that comes up again. I'm not making any statements about, this reciprocal tax activity happening, but it will be part of the conversation. And I want to share that with you, that it's part of the conversation, because I know that there's a lot of anxiety, concern, worry, and so many other things about what's happening with the school's facilities, the tax. Also in this week's newspaper is an article on the levy, on the school levy, and what does it mean for our taxpayers. So I think it's important that we are as forthcoming as we can be about what we're thinking about and what's part of the dialogue. Currently, I'm not presenting a proposal to adopt any reciprocal tax for the village government, but I won't deny that we have talked about it with council. We've talked about it internally. We've talked about it with RETA, which is our regional income tax collection agency. So that's part of the conversation, and I think our community has been asking about a frank conversation about taxes. What are all the taxes that the various municipalities have? What's the tax burden? Who gets what, and what does it do for us? And while I won't talk about this now, because given the time, and I don't think I have 2 hours of your time tonight, but we need to have more conversations about taxes, because I think we need to be clear about what taxes do for our community and the value that we deliver for our community. I'll own all the things that administration does and what we do with the taxes. I think that I'm proud of what we're able to deliver our residents for what is less than 14% of the property tax. Now on utilities, I haven't been shy about recognizing that our water rates are high and that our sewer rates are high. Now I'll defend our electrical rates because I think that they're very competitive. We we have over 70% renewable in electricity in our portfolio. And so what we're delivering to our residents and our businesses is mostly renewable energy. And that price point is competitive with what some of the other municipalities are offering for dirty, cold energy. So I think our electricity rate is competitive, but I recognize that our water isn't. And I'm working on those things. It's hard to fix the water rate issue when the cost drivers for the water enterprise are things that are outside of my control. Good example is that there's a fixed personnel cost that we have as part of running the water plant. Water plant doesn't run by itself, and we're required to have a daily operation in our water plant. So that's one element. Personnel, fixed personnel expense with the operations of the water plant. Top of that, we have a new plant. We have a state-of-the-art plant, and there's a debt service obligation there that's very expensive. And so those two cost factors of our water plant, they're difficult to address because, one, we have a long-term financial obligation, debt service on that plant until I believe is 2042. I wish Matt was here because he knows that information. But we have about 20 years left on that water plant. So that's an expense that we have now and will carry well into the future. So not to say that I'm not giving up on our utility rates. I'm committed to finding efficiencies, creating efficiencies in operation and helping reduce the burden of our utilities. And, I think I'll leave it there. We're running on 8:15. Philip, do you see any questions that have come through? Do we have anyone watching on Facebook? All right. Philip is saying, yes, we have a lot of viewers on there. So I think that's it for my presentation. I'm sorry that my PowerPoint here crashed and I couldn't have all the slides that I had prepared for this presentation. But what we'll do is I'll record another session and we'll have a part 2 or part 3 on what it is that we're working as an administration to deliver a better service for you. We want to create and add value to what we do for our community. So, okay. Philip, no questions? Vicky, thank you so much. Vicky is our sign language interpreter. She's doing an amazing job. I know I've been talking a lot for a long time. So thank you, Vicky. Okay, well, with that, I think if we don't have any questions, Phillips, I think we'll end our presentation. Mayor Pam, thank you for sticking through the presentation. You're on mute.
That was excellent, Josue. I believe it was very user-friendly and you covered so much territory.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Very, very good. Thank you for that information. I'm sorry we missed your power. Sorry, but not sorry that we missed your PowerPoint. Are we still on the air?
I think so. Yes, we're still on the air. Did you have any questions, Mayor?
No, I did not. A couple of follow-up things for down the road, but I just wanted to let you know I feel for the villagers that this was an outstanding presentation. So I just want to say thank you. And again, happy anniversary tomorrow.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you for joining us, Mayor. All right. All right, Sean, you're cutting out? Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you. All right, folks, thank you for joining us. I want to wish you a good night. We'll have more presentations on this topic, and we'll probably record a new session so that you get the slides and you get the content. So thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful night.